Kadosh Boker Or Masechet Nazir 71 Daf Zayin Amud Aleph. So we are by the Mishnah. The Mishnah is 4 lines down, where the Mishnah says, Amar Hareni Nazir. A person that comes and he says, I am going to be a Nazir, Achat Gdolah, for a big one. Or Hareni Nazir Achat Ktana, or I'm going to be a Nazir for a small one. Afilu Mikam Vad Sof HaOlam, even if it's going to be from now until the end, Nazir Shloshim Yom. He's going to be a Nazir for 30 days. Until here we're clear? Okay. So he says over here, in all these 3 cases, it's a Nazir for Shloshim Yom. We do not say that a Chag Gdolah is going to be more than Shloshim Yom, and a Chag Ktana is going to be less than Shloshim Yom, than 30 days. But rather, and also even if he said from now until the end of the world, we only say that it's going to be 30 days. Remember, Stam Nazirut, Stam becoming a Nazir is 30 days. So therefore, if a person comes and he says, I'm going to be a Nazir for Nazir Gadol, or Nazir Katan, no, I don't say Nazir Gadol means more than 30. I don't say Nazir Katan means less. And I don't say Nazir Olam, right? Mikam Vat Sof HaOlam means Nazir Olam. It just means 30 days. Says the Gemara, Amai, why does he become a Nazir only for 30 days? If he came, so the truth is we only focus on the last one, right? Which is basically the one that you would have thought that maybe he's a Nazir Olam, but he said from now until the end of the world. So if he says from now until the end of the world, I would have said that this guy's a Nazir Olam, a Nazir for the rest of, he's a Nazir for his life, right? So why does he say here that it's only going to be a Nazir for 30 days? So answers the Gemara, this is what it means to say, Aricha lihada minta, I accepted this upon myself, the Nazirut of 30 days, but it's so difficult for me. In my eyes, it's like Mikan Bad Sofa Olam. It's like from now until the end of the world. Meaning, he accepted upon himself Nazirut, but Nazirut is so difficult that for him, it's Keilu at Sofa Olam. Okay? Fine. So says the Gemara, Tanam, we learned in the Mishnah, there's a Mishnah later on Chet Amud Aleph. Okay, the Mishnah says, imagine a person comes and he says, I am going to be a Nazir from now until a certain place. What does that mean, until a certain place? Well, a place? Right? Distances? Well, a Nazir is of days, not of distance. We're going to start investigating, right? How long does it take for you to travel from here until that place? Right? If right now it's going to be less than 30 days, Nazir Shloshim Yom. So he's going to become a Nazir of 30 days. V'imlav, and if it's not going to be less than 30 days, Nazir Kiminyan Yamim, right? He's going to be a Nazir according to the days, which means like this. If a person comes and he says, right, I'm going to be a Nazir from here, right from here until Orlando. So I'm going to check, how long does it take for you to get from here until Orlando? Obviously nowadays it becomes very quick with airplanes, right? But Kilo Kavana, let's say even drive, even not driving, even a horse, right? Right? So basically, so he comes and he says, how long would it take? So if it's going to be less than 30 days, so therefore he comes and he says, so therefore he's going to be 30 days. But remember, the minimum of Nazirut is 30 days, so it has to be 30 days. If it's more than 30 days, it's only like the Minyan Hayamim of the Nisiyah. So if it's going to be 45. What does it say over there?
3 days and 7 hours.
What?
Walking.
How much?
3 days and 7 hours.
3 days. Oh, so you see them, he's even walking, it's only 3 days. So again, if it's less than 30 days, yeah.
Traffic.
Yeah, he comes and he says, yeah. So everyone understood the question. So the question is very simple. How could you come and you tell me that basically when a person says Mikam Vat Sofa Olam, the maximum is going to be Shloshim Yom? Here, if a person comes and he says that it's going to be a certain amount of the time of distance, we're going to check it. If it's going to be more, it's going to be more. So Ve'ima Achanami, why don't we say that in Achanami, Haricha liyaminta kemikam v'makom ploni? So therefore, when you come and you say that it's going to be as long as what it's going to take, it's like mikam v'makom ploni, which means that if it's going to be more, it's going to be more time. Amar Rava says, the Mishnah is talking about that a person who accepted upon himself Nazirul Minyan Nesiyah, that it's already talking about Shechzik Baderech, which means that he already started traveling. So since he already started the Yitziyah, right, Le'oto Makom, so Mistaber, the Kavanah is to accept upon himself the Nazirut according to the amount of days that it takes for the traveling. In order that the Zechut of the Nazirut is going to be Shomer alav. Okay? That means basically he comes, he starts traveling, he realizes it's dangerous, so he comes and he says, you know what? He's going to take upon himself the Nazirut as long as he's traveling. So if it's like a Shmina that he wants that whatever time that it's going to be the days of traveling, it's going to protect him, right, from any harm. So ask the Gemara, parsa. 1 second, why don't we just say that every single parsa is a tkufa of 30 days, which means if right now he's traveling, remember that in the days of the Gemara, nowadays we do kilometers, right? Or here in America they do miles. You understand? But in the good place, right? In whether it's Canada, whether it's going to be in Israel, whether it's going to be in France, whether it's going to be in we always use kilometers, right? Or kilometers. That depends how you actually pronounce it, right? So therefore, right? If right now, but in the ties of the Gemara, right? It was always by parsaot. What is a parsa? Every parsa was 4 mil, right? Every one parsa was 72 minutes because it's 4 mil. And every mil is either just under a kilometer or just over a kilometer. Remember, it's 970 meters, right? Or 1.0, whatever, 24, whatever it is, according to the Chazon Ish, of the kilometers. Okay, right? So therefore, right, says the Gemara, why don't we just say that every single parsa, there should be a separate entity of 30 days. So Amar Rav Papa says, Be'atra de lo mane parse. No, it's in a city that they don't count parsaot. So therefore, since they don't count parsaot, I'm not going to use the parsaot as a measurement to say, you know what, for every parsa, you're going to become a nazir. So ask the Gemara, Velehave kol avna ve'avna. What does that mean? Why don't we just say that it should be kol avna ve'avna? What does it mean, avna, right, ve'avna? So he comes and he says, right, why don't we just say that the Nazir is going to be for Tkufot Nifradot according to every single night that he was on the path? Milotzran, didn't we learn? Hareni Nazir ka'afar haaretz, right? V'kis'ar roshi uchol hayam, right? Harezeh, right? He comes and he says, didn't we say that if a person comes and he says that he's going to be a Nazir, like ka'afar haaretz, right? And then afterwards he says, like se'ar roshi uchol hayam, harezeh Nazir olam galeach chal shoshim yom. Says what? Imagine a person comes and he says he's going to be a Nazir, ka'afar haaretz, like the dirt of the land. Or he's going to become, right? He's going to become, right? A Nazir, right? For the afar haaretz, or like se'ar rosho. Imagine how many hairs do you have on your head, right? Or like chol hayam. So that's a Nazir ulam. So therefore, just like we come and say that the kavanah is for Nazirut nifradot, just like the amount of hairs that a person has, or the amount of chol hayam, the sand of the sea, or like the amount of the afar and everything. So to it should be different kavanot, or at least for different nights. So answers the Gemara, kol mi tadet biketzuta lo katani. Anything that has a kitzba, anything that has a set amount, we do not learn. Right? Why? Because we only learn that if it's going to be something that doesn't have a certain, the hairs of your head, there's no, so therefore, Nazir olam. But if you're going to come and you're going to tell me now it's from here to a certain place, you come and you calculate how many nights it's going to take you, and then according to the amount of nights, that's what's going to be. So says the Gemara, that Tanya we learned in the Braita, Hareni Nazir kol yemei chayai, Hareni Nazir olam, Hareze Nazir olam. Imagine a person comes, right? And he says, Hareni Nazir kol yemei chayai. A person is going to be a Nazir all the days of his life. Or Hareni Nazir olam, right? Or he comes and he says, Hareze Nazir olam. So now it's mutar for him to come and to cut his hair once every 12 months. If you remember, we said that in Nazir olam, every 12 months we learned it from Shalom, right? You're allowed to come and to lighten the hair. It's not cutting the hair. It's like trimming. It's like, you're making it lighter. So says the Gemara, even if it's going to be 100 years or even 1,000 years. It's not a Nazir olam. Ella Nazir le'olam. Right? What does that mean? If he's a Nazir le'olam forever, he's not allowed to come and to be mekel saro kol yemei chayav. Right? That's all. Which means, since for sure he's not going to live for 1,000 years, for 100 years, or whatever it is. So therefore, the Braita is saying it's a Nazir le'olam. So therefore, if it's going to be Nazir le'olam, the Nazirut itself does have a kitzbah, and therefore, since it does have a kitzbah, it's not considered Nazir olam. So the Sikum, right, as a summary, there's going to be 3 types of Nazirut for all their lives. Hareni Nazir Kesar Roshi, he becomes obligated a Nazirut every single for 30 days, one after another, all the days of his life. And therefore, after every single 30 days, he comes and he cuts his hair and he and he brings a korban. That was the first one. Hareni nazir kisar roshi, like the hairs of my head. The second one was Hareni nazir olam or kol yomei chayai. So in such a case that a person is going to become a nazir, like kol yomei chayai or nazir olam, he's nazirut achat aruka. It's for his entire, but since it's all one long nazirut, so he cuts his hair every 12 months, right? He's gonna trim down his hair every 12 months. The last one was Hareni nazir mea shana oev shanim, that he comes and he says for 100 years or 1,000 years, he is obligated one nazirut all the days of his life, and therefore there's no heter even to come and to cut his hair at all, not even once a year. So you have three different types of nazirut le'olam, forever. Okay, like the hairs of your head. So therefore every single hair is another 30 days. So therefore after every single 30 days, you cut your hair, you bring a korban, you start again. Cut your hair, so you keep on doing that according to the amount of hair that a person had. Now imagine how many hairs, right, a person has. So imagine what it is, right? And now he comes and he says, the second one that we said, Nazir Olam or Mechayai, so that's like of Shalom, right? That he's a Nazir Olam or all his life. If he says 100 years or 1,000 years, that we know that he's not going to live to that, so therefore he's forever, and therefore he cannot even cut his hair whatsoever. Rabba says, right? Rabba comes and he says, Shane se'arot, it's different se'arot, hoil muvdalot zo mezo. He comes and he says like this, right? We're a few lines up from the Mishnah, right? Rabba comes and he says, it's different se'arot, right? And between yamim and parsaot, meaning the hairs of your head are going to be different than days or than the parsaot of traveling. Hoil muvdalot zo mezo, because when you say se'ar roshi, you could actually say that the kavanah is to different neziruts. And therefore, since it's different neziruts, just like afar haaretz or cholayom, just like the sand, every granule of sand is different, or even like the dirt, right? But when you come and you say from here until there, it's all one distance. It's all one nezirut. Meaning, when you come and you say your hair, every hair is separate. Every single one has its own hole, everything. So therefore, I could say that every single one is a separate nezirut. And if it's going to be a separate nezirut, it's going to be 30 days for every single hair of your head, or every single granule of sand, or every single dirt, dirt of the land. Okay. Is it often to take the hair as a also to do with days is the exact same thing. Haktiv, it's written Yom Echad. So it's mashma that the entire night and day afterwards is one entity in itself. And therefore, why are we going to say the mikana makom ploni, the kavanah, is going to be for according to the days? That means every single day is a different nezirut. So if it traveled 3 days, you said it was going to be 3 days, right? So it's 3 times 30. Why do I say it's one entity? So answers the Gemara, hatam over there to do with Yemei Bereshit, lav de mafseke me'adadihu. The pasuk is not coming to say that every single day is something actually separate, right? So my kama, what does it mean to say? Yemama velayla chad yomahu. It's actually one day. Ve'leolam lo mafseke me'adadi. But be'emet, the yamim are all one entity. And therefore, if a person comes and he says, the kavanah is not the separate days and every single day is a different nezirut. It's all one entity of nezirut. Rava comes and he says, why are you coming and you're trying to ask so much? Shana is different over there. When you come and you said that I am a nazir achat mikan latzof haolam, the second that you say the word, use the terminology achat means one entity, and you're not splitting it up into different entities. So the second that you say one entity, right, that's it. You don't need to do anything else. Okay? Fine. It says the Mishnah on the bottom of Zayin Amud Aleph. The Mishnah on 7a towards the bottom, right? 4 lines up. Hareni Nazir v'yom echad. If a person comes and he says he's a Nazir and 1 day, or Hareni Nazir v'sha'achat, or he's a Nazir and 1 hour, or Hareni Nazir achat u'mechsa, or he's a Nazir of 1.5. Hareze Nazir shetayim. So then it's going to be 2 different kufot of 30 days. Because basically, once he comes and he says a Nazir plus, now it becomes 2 different entities. Okay? Yeah. Fine. Says the Gemara, why did I need to learn all these different things? One more time. A person says a Nazir in 1 day. So the second he becomes a Nazir in 1 day, that means it's obviously a Nazir, a full Nazir of 30 days. Plus that 1 day becomes another 30 days. The same thing whether it's going to be even for Sha'achat or even for Chatu Mechza. Right? There's no such thing as Chatu Mechza. Once he says Nazir, he's a Nazir for 30 days. Plus a Mechza becomes, even though it's only half, he becomes another 30 days. So says the Gemara, why do I need all these cases? You need all these cases. Okay? He comes and he says, the Tana. Right? If right now you're going to come and you're going to say, Hareni Nazir biyom echad. Yeah? If a person comes and he says, Hareni Nazir biyom echad, right? What does that mean? A person comes and he says that he's going to be a Nazir in one day. And here we're going to say, doesn't exist in Naziru for one day. Right? So, kamani tati. That's why he has to do two different Naziruts. Everyone knows, can you become a Nazir for one day? It doesn't exist. So therefore, if you come and you say Nazir and one day, it means two different Nazirut. One Nazirut of 30 days that you already said Nazir, and then the other one day, which is going to be 30 days. Aval hareni Nazir b'sha'achat. But if you're going to tell me now, right, of sha'achat, limne 31 yom. Why don't you do 31 days? Right? And therefore he comes and he says, right, that by doing only 31 days, you're going to be okay. So says the Gemara, Kamashmalan comes to teach you that even in such a case, the second that you said 1 hour, which means you're going into the next Nazirut, so therefore you have to do a full Nazirut of 30 days. Okay, Zainamu bet 7b. Okay, 1 second. Ve'itana. Now, if you're going to tell me Sha'a'achat, if you're going to tell me now it's 1 hour, Mishum delo nachit ledavka, only because maybe be'emet you weren't medaktek in your words, because there's no such thing as nizirut for 1 hour. Okay? As a Gemara. But if a person comes and he says that he's a nazir 1.5, the nachi ledavka there, you could say, listen, it's davka 1.5, so maybe it was baby be'emet 45 days. Ema lo limni tarti, so I would say that you don't have to do two different terms of 30 days. Really be'emet, it's 45 days. Kamash malan kulu nazir shtaim. Kamash comes to teach you that the second that a person said nazir umechza, right, 1.5, he was not mikaven to say 45 days of one nazirut. He meant one nazirut, another half term of nazirut. So therefore, there's no such thing as a half term of nazirut. The minimum term of nazirut is 30 days. So therefore, he has to do 2 batches of 30 days, which is 60 days. On Zainamud Bet, the Mishnah on 7b says, we are 4 lines down. Areni Nazir Sheloshim Yom V'Sha'a Achat. Yeah, so he comes and he says, if a person comes and he says that he's a Nazir for 30 days and 1 hour, Nazir Shoshim Ve'echad Yom. So therefore he's a Nazir for 31 days. She'en Naziru L'Sha'ot. And therefore it's Ki'ilu that he's saying he's a Nazir for 31 days. Okay? So now let's see what it says over here. So says the Gemara, right? Because we already know that it doesn't go according to hours, it goes according to days. Right? So it comes and he says like this, right? He comes and he says, right, like this. Okay? Amar Rav. Rav comes and he says, Loshan, what are we talking about? Ela de Amar Shoshim Ve'echad Yom. Right? That he said Shoshim Ve'echad Yom. Aval Amar, but if he said Shoshim Yom Ve'yom Echad, right? If you said 30 days and 1 day, Nazir Shtaim. So you see from here how important the terminology is. The terminology is if you said 31 days, right? So 31 days is 31 days. You're a Nazir for 31 days. Or if you said 45. But if you say you're a Nazir, right? Sorry, you're a Nazir for 30 days and 1 day, the second that you added the and 1 day, now becomes a new Nazirut, and therefore becomes 2 batches of 30. Right? Exactly what you said. Yeah.
But the 31 days doesn't exist.
The Gemara says that Rav comes and he says, what are we talking about? When a person comes and he says Shoshim Ve'echad Yom, right? But if he says Shoshim Yom Ve'yom Echad, it's Nazir Shtaim. So first of all, we just made a differentiation between hours and days, right? Which means like this. If a person comes and he says, right, one more time, a person comes and he says, right, that he's going to be a Nazir, right, for 30 days and an hour, we know that since a person comes and he says 30 days and an hour, and there's no such thing as Nazirut for the hour, so therefore it's considered 31 days, but that extra hour was just for another day. So therefore, you give him 31 days. Chazaku Baruch. However, though, right, he comes and he says, when you say Shoshim Yom Ve'yom Echad, 30 days and 1 day, so that's going to be 30 and 1, right? 30, and then it's going to be 1 day. That you could divide because the days are able to make it into Nazirut, into a separate Nazirut. Rav Sabar like Rabbi Akiva, Rav comes and he holds like Rabbi Akiva, the Dari Shnishna Yitira, that he's going to be doresh extra lashon. What is the extra lashon? The Tanakh we learned in a Mishnah. Lo et abor velo et adut. What does that mean, right? If you're going to sell a house, so you're not including in the sale, not the pit or not the dut. The dut is like a, in the ground, it's like a type of a pit, right? Inside the ground of the house. Even though he told him, he wrote to him, unka veruma, which means the height and the depth of the house. And he has to actually purchase from the lokeach, is to purchase from him a way, a path of getting to it. These are the words of Rabbi Akiva. Chachamim come and they say, you do not have to purchase a path, because since you went and you actually sold it to him, right, except for the bor and the dud, obviously you left over for yourself a passageway to get to your bor and your dud, right? That means if I'm going to sell you a house, but I leave to myself the seller, right? The seller is the place where they use the wine, yeah? So therefore, obviously, I'm going to come and I'm going to leave to myself a path to get there. I don't need to purchase for myself a path in order to get to the seller. But Rabbi Akiva admits, if he tells him, right, that means again, this was a machloka between Rabbi Akiva and who's the other one? Chachamim. Rabbi Akiva says you have to purchase a path, but you didn't sell him the pits, the different pits. But according to Chachamim, you don't have to purchase a path. But Rabbi Akiva admits that if he comes and he says, I'm selling you the house except for the pits, for sure that he does not have to come and does not have to purchase for himself a path. And with this, we finish Daf Zayin.